Good day, everyone. Today, we are going to present the topic, the silent way, and discuss what it is all about. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. It is a quote that will give you an idea on what is a silent way all about. But what is truly a silent way? A silent way is a language teaching method developed by Khalid Kategno, a Europe educator that makes extensive use of silence as a teaching technique. He introduced this method in 1963 in his own book entitled The Foreign Language in School, The Silent Way. In short, a silent way is a language teaching method where silence is the central teaching technique. Gategno uses colored sticks called Corsiner rods and feather charts to teach sounds. The aforementioned are the best learning materials to teach students in a silent way method because it provides endless opportunities to introduce and reinforce lessons in topics. The silent way viewed learning as problem-solving, creative, discovering activity where the learner is the main character. The silent way is a methodology of teaching language based on the idea where the teacher should be as silent as possible during a class, but learners should be encouraged to speak as much as possible. In other words, the students are in charge whereas the teachers are there. So, the silent way method encourages students to become independent learners. Why use silent way method? First is to get students to have better foundation in speaking the targeted language or uttering a word fluently, which could lead the students to have better pronunciation. Second, silence is considered the best method because being in a silent environment, students are able to concentrate on the task given and are able to finish it and ace it to its full potential. How to use the silent way? Silent is basically the key tool for teachers in using the silent way. At the very beginning, students would usually do all the talking. Being silent helps to move the focus of the classroom from the teacher or the whiteboard to the students more. Hence, this will encourage cooperation among students themselves. Silent way encourages peer correction as students are encouraged to help their classmates from time to time, especially when they have trouble with any particular part of the language. Usually, this cooperation is a friendly one, not competitive one. So in the silent way, the teachers are able to observe the class from time to time. Silence can also help students to correct their own errors as they are able to self-evaluate themselves from time to time whenever they make mistakes. Teachers will usually remain silent as the students make mistakes. They can help students with their pronunciation by mouthing the words without vocalizing. They can also use hand gestures. So, in a silent way, teachers are silent as much as possible to enable learners discover, collaborate, and learn on their own.
So next is the role of the teacher. First role of a teacher is a technician or an engineer who facilitates learning. He or she silently monitors learners' interaction between each other's, monitors students' efforts, performance, and moderating the class. The second role of the teacher must be a neutral observer. The teacher must not only focus on one student, but all of his or her students. He or she neither elated by correct performance nor discouraged by errors. The third role of the teacher is silent. His presence in the classroom is limited in providing a model of the language that the students are going to work on. In the absence of the teacher, dominating the lesson, the student takes an active role in the learning process and grants students greater autonomy or independence or freedom, and encourage the students to speak as much as possible. The fourth role of the teacher is sequence and timing are more important than in many kinds of language teaching classes, and teachers' sensitivity to and management of them is critical. The last is the teacher uses gestures, charts, and manipulatives in order to elicit and shape students' responses, and so must be both facile and creative.
The role of the student in the silent way. The student is obligated to pay close attention. As a learner, it is important not to get frustrated in case the silent way lesson sometimes may be a little tricky and the meaning of the materials is not always clear at first sight. Independent learners must depend and use what they already know. Therefore, learners are expected to develop independence, autonomy, and responsibility. Autonomous learners choose proper expressions in a given set of circumstances and situations. Next, learners must have the ability to choose intelligently. Learners are expected to interact with each other and suggest alternatives to each other. Therefore, learners are expected to be a teacher, a support system, a problem solver, and a self-evaluator. Last is, learners have only themselves as individuals and the group to rely on. They must learn to work cooperatively rather than competitively.
These are the important principles in a silent way of teaching. First is the teacher must begin with a topic the students already know and build from something that is new. The teacher makes use of what students already know. The more the teacher does for the student what they can do for themselves, the less they will do for themselves. Second, the teacher remains silent and guides the learning process while responsibility for working out the rules falls on the learners. So the teacher will act as facilitator and give support to the learning process of the students. Third is, silence is a tool. It helps to foster autonomy and initiative. It also removes the teacher from the center of attention, so he can listen to and work with the students. The teacher speaks, but only when necessary. Otherwise, the teacher gets out of the way so that it is the students who receive the practice in using the language. Number 4. In silence, the student concentrates on the task to be accomplished. In doing an activity, students will be more focused on accomplishing the task while they are working it on a peaceful way. 5. Language is not learned by repeating after a model. Students need to develop their own inner criteria for correctness, to trust, and to be responsible for their own production in the target language. Number 6. Native language and translation is not allowed. In learning, learners draw on everything that they already know, especially their native language. When it comes to language, allowing students to do all the talking is the best way to accomplish that. Number 7. This method involves a lot of body language and mimics, as well as postures and charts. There are other alternative activities that can be done in a silent way to impart knowledge to the students. Number 8. Teacher does not correct mistakes. Errors are important and necessary for learning. The teacher must not interfere with the learning process. Teacher takes a back seat. The more you help, the less they learn. Students should develop self-exploration by discovering their own mistakes.